I published a video on Wednesday, and then the next Tuesday I signed a term sheet with the lead investor.
Samuel Beek is the former head of product at Weave and the founder of Schematic, a company that lets anyone build hardware from a prompt. His raw product demos did more than build an audience.
Kind of launched that as a side project, made a video about it, and that video went so viral that it kind of changed my life.
These posts that you were making them from your personal account. Was that something that was intentional?
So I decided, I don't want to get permission to post shit. I'm just going to post it on my own. When my video on the AI stuff went viral, like a crazy hike in MRR the next few days. And that was very common. I think people do not want to see ads. They want to kind of exchange experiences. That's just very kind of natural to our human condition.
The video that had made a lot of noise, which is that 1981 video with the Think Different video, was incredible.
When a founder is leading distribution, marketing, sales for a company by showing up online as themselves, I would call founder-led marketing. And why I think it's so important is like...
Yeah, what do you think is stopping people from doing it more?
I think it's fear, anxiety, insecurity.
How do you think who is an employee start content and putting themselves out there?
What I tell people a lot is,
if you're working on something you want to be recognized for, this episode is for you.
Sam, welcome. It's awesome to be doing this. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, from your time at Weed to your launching Schematic, and really about how you're switching between the builder, creator, and founder mode, and maybe many other modes that you have. But first, let's start off with a really important question the entire internet wonders about is, how old are you?
I'm 31.
Now that that mystery is solved, we know that it wasn't a weird video effect that was used to show your agelessness, which is amazing. I discovered you randomly on X. I think there was a video that you had shared, and you were showcasing certain features of the platform, and you were doing a lot of this hand waving. It was the era when everybody was posting a lot of AI video, and I think my comment on your video was, the model needs to do less hand waving, and you said, no, that's how I actually speak. Then I saw a couple of your other videos, and I realized that, yeah, actually, that is really your character. That's how you could speak. And ever since I've been entertained, informed, and educated by your content and videos, and it's amazing to always kind of see what you produce. But before all of what you're doing right now, you were at Weed. It would be great to start from that part of your journey and talk about what your role was there, what you did, and then take it from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I joined Feed when it was super early. We were doing, I think, less than 2 million in revenue, where I don't know how many people we were, but not many. We didn't have teams yet. So that says something about the size. And I was basically brought on to help kind of run product. And yeah, I came in and it was very chaotic. There was no real way of getting, we didn't have a process to figure out what work we were going to do. We didn't have a roadmap, nothing like that. So yeah, I was helping building that up and build up and later led the product organization. So I led product design, research, which was really fun. And in that journey, Veed grew from, I think, around 2 million when I grew in revenue to about 50. When I left, we grew from the few people we had to hundreds of people. So yeah, it was a crazy, crazy roller coaster. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was really fun to kind of see some of my ideas that, started small when Veed was still small, become so big. Yeah.
Yeah. Was this your first company that you joined at a very early stage?
No. I think I've done a lot of my own projects in the past, so those were early stage. And then, yeah, I guess this was the first one that was very successful. But I've joined other early stage companies. I think the thing that made this quite unique is that very often companies raise funding and then they start hiring. But Feed was bootstrapped, so We were running off the profits at that time, and I think that created a very different dynamic than some of the other early stage companies I've been in.
Yeah, you were at WeTransfer before that, another company I admire, and is one of those I always look to, especially because it is a technology solution that was built with a lot of creativity behind it, right? I think that was the really amazing part about WeTransfer. When you came into Weed, what were some of your biggest, not mandates, but like the ideas you wanted to implement as somebody who joined as a head of product?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was that I think we had to be a bit more strategic about what we were building and figure out kind of loops there. So I think one of the most interesting things that we realized when I joined Feed was that we grew through one channel and one channel only at the time, which was SEO. And the way SEO works is you build up authority on a certain topic. In our case, that was video, and then you can rank for all of these keywords on video. So basically what we try to do is we try to figure out what are people looking for in the video space, and can we build features for that. So instead of like trying to make a feature marketing it, we kind of went the other way around. We were researching what are people looking for when it comes to video on Google, and how can we then build features for those users. And that was really one of the first things I started working on, researching search traffic and then building the features that the users wanted. And it was really fun to build that loop because it was very kind of like intrinsically a growth loop, because the more content you make about for SEO, the more features you make, the more users you'll acquire. So it was a kind of a great formula to grow really quickly.
Is that something you discovered or something you had done before previously?
No, it's definitely not something I had done before. It's also not something that I uniquely came up with. I'm not claiming this playbook. It's something that we kind of discovered together with, I mean, me and Saba, the CEO, and one of the growth people, Vincent. I think in our way of working, we figured this out. And it took a long while before we actually kind of made it a framework and a formula, but we were doing it for a while before we kind of found kind of the recipe there. Yeah.
Yeah, and what drew you to just this idea of joining a company that was building a product around video?
So I always need to find something that I find interesting. So I can't do a product where I don't get excited by it. And doing something in the video space was definitely very interesting to me. I was not doing videos back then myself, but I was very drawn to creative tooling from my WeTransfer days. So kind of building a tool in which you make a canvas and then people can build something with that canvas that they can be proud of, that is super, super exciting to me. So that definitely drew me to it. But then the team, the founder, everyone else was really, really cool. So that helped a lot as well. But if the founder was doing a fintech, I would have not joined. So I think definitely the first thing was the product itself.
Yeah, and so you're saying that when after you joined Reed was when you started recording videos or even started experimenting with recording videos. Do you remember one of the first few things that you made?
Yeah, yeah. So it was really interesting because actually it took a while for me to start recording videos myself. So what happened was I was speaking to users almost daily and trying to figure out, what are their problems, what are their pain points. And one of the things that kept coming back in those conversations was that they really struggle to make actual videos. So that was super interesting to me because I was like, if that's your actual struggle, then I don't know how we can help you as a platform, right? That's not a software issue. That's like a you issue. But at a certain point, I was like, wait a minute. First of all, I need to try these things out myself to actually feel what it's like. And then secondly, I I wanted to hire people, and we were hiring like crazy at Feed. And I always liked when I saw videos of people that were hiring, were kind of like hiring people, because then you could make that kind of human connection before you'd met the person. So I wanted to do that myself, and I thought like a video company should do videos for their hiring. So I started out making hiring videos, and they were so bad. They were so bad. Like I watched a few a while back to kind of see how far I'd come, but they were really dull, really boring. There was not good storytelling. It was really me trying to tell my story to the camera instead of thinking about what the audience wanted to hear. I focused a lot on production quality at the time instead of narrative. And yeah, they were terrible. But, any video creator will start with really bad stuff and they will slowly work towards better stuff. So I'm really glad I started and I've grown since.
That's super interesting and important. Being a product person myself, I definitely recognize the need for us to somehow put ourselves in the shoes of our users, right? For anybody who's doing product, it's really hard all the time. Like you said, if you are designing
Yeah.
something for investment bankers, it's really hard to become an investment banker. But as much as possible, getting close to them is important. And the other thing that you mentioned, which was separating the product from the motivations itself, like how far should that product extend itself, is such an important insight. And then, like everybody says, it's all about the reps. Did anybody join because of your videos?
Yeah, yeah. So they started working even though they were really bad. Like I think people really appreciated that I made videos. I think video is just the medium that is the best to kind of transfer vibes, emotions, those types of things. So people started connecting better. If you can see who you're going to be working with before you join a company and you see them in a video and you're like, oh, these are cute, sweet people. I'd love to be working with them. It just really demystifies what the company is about and you want to join. So it really worked, even though the videos were terrible.
And at that point, were you thinking of your personal brand and all of those things, or were you just using video as a functional tool to put the message out there?
I've always been interested in personal brand. At the time, I kind of struggled because I felt like my personal brand was cooler and more professional than what I could put out there. But it's definitely something that was on my mind. However, kind of the this pure motivation of this video is really like communicating what the company was like. So I would say it was a secondary thought, but definitely I think for me this is always present.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Obviously, you worked in the company started building some amazing tools and products because of the audience listening process that you put in.
Yeah.
At what point did you start making the demo videos for Weed?
Yeah, I don't really remember exactly at what point I started doing that, but yeah, there was a moment when I realized like, hey, I want to just create much more videos because I really want to feel like what it's like to be a creator, not like somebody that occasionally makes a video. And I want to get good at this. And I think how I got there was actually I started doing more public speaking and I realized, oh, video and public speaking, they're very alike. The thing though is when I do a public speaking gig, 50 people will listen. And when I do a video, at least 1,000 will see it. If I do okay-ish and if I do great, 1 million people will see it. So that was very interesting to me. So I started making more content and I don't really remember exactly when I started doing videos for Veet, but in the beginning they were really like Sam, head of product, present a couple of features. So I would kind of collect a few features, demo them in a video that was a couple minutes long. That didn't do too well. But then over time, I started making more short form, more to the point videos that were really about showcasing one feature, one idea around the video, and those started doing much better. And then at a certain point, I think this is when we met, I started making videos about the AI stuff that we were building, and that was so novel and people were so excited that those.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was in the enterprise stats world, and a lot of the videos that are shown there, which are really good. Like I used to like actually some of the Zendesk videos where they used to
Yeah, they're great.
essentially have this really nice studio space, and they used to have this overlay with the
Yeah.
product releases and things like that. And we used to always think about doing that as a part of our product, and we did a couple of them. And that made sense because there's a whole aura of professionalism that needs to happen. And in that scenario, your product is separated from the actual medium itself. I think the advantage for you was the product and the medium was one, and could basically almost demo yourself buying the craft. And I think that's something that is beautifully came together for you. Did you realize that at some point?
Yeah, I realized it later on, but I definitely realized it. And I think it was amazing. Being able to promote a product while being also kind of its target customer, that was great because that just makes the promotion much more genuine. But on the other side, being my own customer, I found so many issues with the product that are really hard to find from data or user conversations. Like in video editing, you always work with a timeline, right? And if the timeline feels a little bit iffy, those are the types of things that you have to feel those things and feel that pain yourself in order to really get there. And I think that's what really helped there as well.
And as you started doing this, were the reactions and the responses that you were getting to those different from your earlier videos where you were sitting behind a computer and doing things?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think in general, when you publish a video that gets more reach, you get a wider reach that has pros and cons. You get a bit more negative feedback as well. But very often, like when your video has low reach, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, which I was using a lot, you mostly get support from people that already know you or know like of you, and it's less about the feature itself. Once your videos start doing more reach, it often reaches people that are actually interested in whatever you're selling or talking about. So yeah, the feedback was way better, and also it converted better into actual usage. So I remember when my video on the AI stuff went viral, I think we saw like a crazy hike in MRR the next few days, and that was very common when videos did really well. So I think that shows something about the power of video, and especially if you reach people that you didn't know yet. So instead of like kind of keeping the audience that already had a bit more close, it was really growing the audience of Veed and myself in a way.
You talked about channels a little bit, LinkedIn. I found you on X, and I think you had maybe a YouTube, or maybe not. You didn't have a YouTube at that point, right?
Yeah.
So, what I wanted to kind of understand was for all of these posts that you were making them from your personal account, as I understand. Was that something that was intentional or just something that happened organically?
Both. I think first of all, a lot of marketing teams, they they have an idea behind what marketing should be, and they want everything to be on brand. And I think that filter actually kills a lot of creativity and spikiness, and that's the types of things that people actually are attracted to on the internet. So very, very rarely you see a video posted by a brand or something like that that is actually like really fun to watch. When I did videos together with our marketing team, and that's not to hate on them because I think this is almost like a natural thing that happens to any marketing team, I noticed that they became a bit too polished. When I did a video myself, I could be a bit more me, with the crazy hand movements, with my energy and stuff like that. And I think that really worked. So I decided, I don't want to get permission to post shit. I'm just going to post it on my own account. That was one reason. And then the other reason is, especially on LinkedIn, this is the case. Videos from people just do better than videos from brands. On X, this is not necessarily the case, but on LinkedIn, it very much is the case. Yeah.
But why do you think these raw kind of mid-build messy videos are doing well?
I think people like to feel real connection. That's why I think a lot of talking head videos do well. So videos with real faces in it. I think people do not want to see ads. They want to kind of exchange experiences. It's just very kind of natural to our human condition. So I think when you see even a video like where my setup right now, maybe it's too polished. Maybe people will trust me less. There's a lot of research that shows that right now, when you are on TikTok, if you record on high quality gear, you actually have less performance. So I think it's just a thing where people want to see the realness, and the same with like emotions. For many startups and companies, one of the companies they look up to the most is Apple. But I think Apple's videos, they're like the worst. They're they're like really talented people saying in very monotone voices how revolutionary and exciting the product is, and it feels very vain. When you see somebody that's genuinely excited about something, or somebody that's using it, or even struggling with something, that's really where you kind of exchange ideas and emotions. So So that's why I believe that just works way better. And I'm not alone there. There's a lot of research that proves this. If you look at the kind of content that algorithms are promoting, it's all these types of content. So I think that's how it works.
Now, it's interesting you bring up Apple. People confuse the different eras of Apple. I think
Yeah,
the video that had made a lot of noise, which was that 1981 video with the Think Different video,
incredible.
was incredible. That was amazing because, to your point, it was raw. It had some edge to it. It had some personality to it.
Yeah.
All of the videos today are pretty much, the video equivalents of Getty Images.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And the trickle down effect there is that a lot of startups are copying this and they put their founder on like the most expensive camera they can find in a really nice studio, very well lit, talking about their exciting project. Where I don't watch those videos. I zone out after like 1 minute. But if you show me the founder, like from a camera angle next to them while they're on their laptop and you ask, hey dude, why are you so glued to your laptop? What are you so excited about? And they're like, okay, let me tell you. You suddenly get a very different dynamic. And I think that's really what good content is about right now. And I think that video would do way better than the initial one.
yeah, I've seen a lot of documentary vlog style content coming up. It's something that I binge watch a little too much nowadays. So no, I hear you, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of that content as we
Yeah,
kind of move
same.
forward. All right, let's keep moving. So fast forward, you've been doing these amazing Weed videos. I'm binge watching all of the Weed videos you're creating, and then you release a video about a side project that you're doing. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, so I was very interested in hardware and electronics and robotics. But in my kind of journey to learn more about that, I realized that that part of the world had not yet gone through the AI revolution. So while I saw people using Lovable and Cursor to make websites, a lot of people that actually had never made a website or an app, hardware still seemed like stuck in the late 90s. So I kind of set out to build kind of a Lovable Cursor type of thing for hardware. It's called Schematic. And yeah, I kind of launched that as a side project, made a video about it, and that video went so viral that it kind of changed my life, because after I published that video, investors started coming in, and it became a fundraise kickoff instead of a random video about my side project.
Yeah, and it happened pretty quickly, right? Just give me a quick timeline from the video to when you registered your company. How quick was that?
I think the more interesting one is, I think when I published the video, on Wednesday, and then the next Tuesday I'd signed a term sheet with the lead investor. So that's 6 days. I think I registered my company later because I was too hyped up with all the fundraise madness instead of doing so I didn't really do the company admin yet.
You're right. That's significantly more interesting and a lot crazy. Everybody would want to be in your seat. Now that's amazing. Let's talk a little bit more about Schematic. For those who don't know what Schematic is, how would you explain it to them? And maybe what we can do is dive into a little show and tell of how
Yeah.
Schematic works.
Yeah, let's just showcase it. I think that's the easiest way to learn what it does. So basically, Schematic allows you to build any hardware or electronic, just like you would build a website with Lovable or something like that, just from a prompt. So you can build whatever you want. I think we can put something in here. So let's say you want to build a weather station from my home. And maybe you want to use an e-ink display because you like that. You can just prompt that. And now what Schematic does is it will figure out which parts you need. But before it's actually going to ask me, do I prefer specific parts? So here I'm just going to select a random one. But basically it will figure out which parts you need. And it will figure out parts that work well together so that you don't need to worry about that. It will then, once it has found those parts, tell you how to wire them up. So I think that's what we'll be seeing now. So yeah, here are the other parts. We're seeing an e-ink display and some kind of weather sensor. So now what it's doing, it's actually trying to figure out how do I need to wire these things. It has figured that out. That's great. And then afterwards, what it will do is it will actually write the code that you need to build this object. So after it's done that, you can actually deploy the code from Schematic to your device. So if you've built this thing, you can actually connect it to your computer, and you can try it from there. And then if there's any issues, Schematic can even help you debug. We also write assembly instructions, so we kind of make a guide for you on how to use it, which is also really, really cool. So let me just briefly show you what we've done here. So we have the components that we would need to buy. You can also buy those straight from Schematic, which is really, really cool. So you need like a development board, a display, and some kind of sensor that measures temperature, humidity, and some other things. It will tell you here on the diagram how to wire all of that up. And then we have a nice assembly guide here with a lot of information on how to actually, kind of a step-by-step tutorial on how to build this project. And then we have the code for the project, which we can actually, if you click deploy here, deploy live from the app to whatever you've built. So that's basically what we've done so far. And yeah, it's pretty cool if you ask me. Maybe before we talk more, I'll just show you briefly on our website. Here down below, you can see some of the cool things that people have built. So somebody's built like a plant watering robot. Somebody's built a flight radar. We've seen all sorts of cool projects made with the app. And yeah, it's just really exciting to see what the community is doing with it.
Yeah, it's basically the equivalent of a nerd's toy store. I want to click on that TikTok video and I want to hit buy on those little gadgets that people are building because everything seems so interesting. I'm curious about
Yeah.
the age groups that are using it. What's your youngest schematic user, if you know it?
Youngest one is in 9th grade. What is that? I don't know the American system, but
14 maybe? 14?
14, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So that makes sense. So that's the youngest one I've spoken to myself. And then the oldest one, hard to say, but definitely I've seen some people that are, for example, teachers or professors in universities using it.
I can't wait for my son to grow up a little bit more. And then I'm seeing this personally as a way to do these fun projects with him. I'm sure by the time he grows up, the product is going to evolve like crazy. So I only think it's going to get better. But all of us did these like school projects, and then at some point we got into the professional world. We stopped building things, and but there's always that like kid inside many of us who wants to build something. And whether it is, let's say, lovable, whether it is schematic, I think what's great is now the possibility or the power to build something is in our hands. I saw that you did a video with someone who had never built hardware before. And I don't think that's an anomaly. That must be a large amount of your user base, like people who've always wanted to but never could. Do you
Yeah.
have any interesting stories about that?
Yeah, I think first of all, that's like one of the coolest things, like seeing people actually build stuff that have never built stuff before. Yesterday, somebody sent me a robot. Let me see if I can find it. It was so cool. Yeah, here it is. Like, I made a video about it, obviously, because I make a
Uh-huh.
video about everything. But they basically made a little robot. I think maybe you can see it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I will send it to you. But yeah, those types of projects, like hearing from a person that has never built something before, that they've built their own robots, that's just the best thing in the world. What I also really like to see is people, they send me like, oh, I've made a clock, and they send me a screenshot of the clock they've built. And then the next week they tell me, oh, I've made a Morse code training device because I want to learn how to do Morse code. And then the week later they are like, oh, I made like a little game console that projects Tetris on my wall. And I think this is the best thing to see for me as a founder. You kind of see that progression of people kind of getting into it with something really simple, like a little clock on the display, but going further and further and learning more and more about electronics. So those are some of the coolest things I've seen from like newbies. But also we've seen, like, for example, agriculture technology companies using us to build actual like devices that they use in the field, which is obviously also incredibly exciting.
Yeah. You said you make a video about everything, and I've definitely seen that. It's a great way to showcase what everybody's building because it's not just a product like a shoe which you can just show in a photograph. It is something that's living and breathing, and the best way is to see it actually come to life. What I want to understand is now that you've moved into your founder mode, what does your typical week look like when you're moving between being a builder, being a creator, and being a founder? How do you switch between these modes?
Yeah, that's really tough. I think there is some overlap. If you look at what, like, as a founder, a lot of the things that you need to do, they're actually really about becoming a creator. People don't talk about this, but like, if you think about it, as a founder, you have three responsibilities, in my opinion. You have like operational stuff that you need to do. I try to outsource most of that with AI. I'm getting there, but it's still taking a lot of time. Like today, I don't know if you can see, but we're doing a lot of work on the office. Somebody needs to coordinate that. The second kind of big bucket of work, and this is, I think, the most important one, is building the product. Like, you need to build out the product, figure out what your users want, talk to them, etc., and build it. And then the third category is kind of like building the business, which is marketing, hiring, sales, all of these things, where I actually think, like, for me, being a bit of a low-key creator and creating content actually really helps. Like, I've never struggled to hire for Schematic because people know me through the internet. They're excited to work with me. They think what we're doing is really fun as Schematic because they've seen it on Instagram or on TikTok or on X. So a lot of these things kind of help me with these tasks in a very different way than if I would be like really working on hiring specifically. So I sometimes feel like doing a lot of this creator stuff actually allows me to build a bigger brand than doing very specific tasks.
When you talk about being a creator, it's kind of skin that you're constantly wearing, right? And how do you decide, like, what parts of your process of building this business you should record and share versus something that you just want to keep internal?
Yeah, I focus on like things that I think people will find interesting. I really have very little secrets. The only thing I would not really make content about is probably how our compensation, well, maybe even that I would make a video about, but like how much certain people get paid, or like personnel issues, or other things. But like everything else, I think I try to figure out, can I turn this into something that's interesting for other people? And the answer is often yes. Like renovating the office, for example, what we're doing right now. You make a video about it, you'd be surprised how many likes you get. Like the other day, we made a photo of the new desks we got, and we got 100K views on it. I try to just ask myself the question, like, can I tweet this or can I make a video about it? And often the answer is more like, like this format would work well for this thing that you just experienced. But very rarely the answer is no, this is not something you can share. I think the best example is like our office got robbed. They stole our cameras and tools. And instead of, being very sad about it, well, I was very sad about it, but I made a photo of the tripod without a camera. And people really liked it. And it got me a lot of attention. And it made the whole pain of that break in a lot less painful. And I think it's a really funny example of something where you turn anything into shareable content.
Most people historically have written books about it, and then you get to know those things anyways, right? That's how you read biographies. And in some way, you're creating this living and breathing film that over time people are following along, and some people may go back in the future and then like look back at these to understand it. So documentation has always been done. It sounds like we have the tools today to do it in real time in a way. I've always wondered when I read history, how do people remember? Like who is making this up, and how are historians even like figuring out what exactly happened in that room? Because
Yeah.
you get evidence, but even today, if I have to think about what exactly happened in my office last week, I can't give you a very detailed description. But
Yeah.
but the thing is, like when you read these history books and biographies, and that's like the art of writing, of course,
Yeah.
is like you feel like you're there, and like he moved the pen and then
Yeah.
did this. Like how do you know this? But with video, And by creating some of these mini episodes, you
Yeah,
can, you actually can be there exactly with the founder and the person.
that's yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I think yeah, I like this frame of thought. Yeah.
We talked a little bit about, founder marketing, and I know you've been thinking about this. Maybe you can frame what your perspective on founder marketing is and why you think it's important.
Yeah, so this is something I've been thinking a lot about lately because I think it's like crazy important. This founder-led marketing, when a founder is leading distribution, marketing, sales for a company by showing up online as themselves, I think that's what I would call founder-led marketing. And why I think it's so important is like I think very early on companies are basically their founders, and I think by telling your own story as a founder you can reach so many people and you can connect to so many people, and that's so powerful for your company. And I think yeah, basically too few people do it, and a lot of people kind of are mostly focusing when they're starting a company on building their product or whatever in the dark, and that just means that they're throwing a lot of potential distribution, potential deals, potential hires, potential sales away. And I think that's such a shame, and I think more people should do founder-led marketing. And I don't think it is something that is specifically for influencers or people that want to be influencers. I think there's ways to do founder-led marketing for almost any.
Yeah. What do you think is stopping people from doing it more?
I think most people, I think it's fear, anxiety, insecurity. I think a lot of people are afraid to show themselves online, to be vulnerable online, to be not liked online. I think that is a big fear of many people, and I think founders are very prone to that fear as well.
To that point, how do you think marketing teams will also evolve? Because we've talked about marketing and they play a very important role, but do you think there's an evolution that marketing teams need to have? And what should
Yeah,
that be?
yeah. Look, I'm not a marketing expert, so I only know what I know. But I think people-led marketing, whether that's founder-led or other people-led, I think works really well. So there's this girl that I've done a video with. She's called Louise. I think she's one of the coolest marketers on the internet. She basically markets her company, which is like a screen recorder, by making videos about it herself, kind of, but not only about screen recording, but about different topics in that realm. And people like her, they like her videos, and therefore they like that product. I think that is the way that marketing is going to evolve. It's not going to be about, a very cool video with motion graphics about a brand. It's going to be much more human, both online, in person, through different channels. I think this is what we'll be seeing.
One of the companies I am fascinated with, and I'd love to speak to some of the people behind it, is Play. I think it's a AI CRM. They've been doing some really good content as well. I think they have a head of narrative, which is super interesting. It's almost like what the new spin of marketing should feel like. And there's a bunch of others that are slowly going into that space. I've also been seeing a lot of creative roles inside of organizations. And the reason I started this podcast was to talk to people who are not only founders, but also, employees inside companies who should start creating content to build their own personal brand for many reasons, whether it's for your next job, whether it's to elevate your current company, whether it's to kind of create relatability. I think it's very critical. Um, how do you think somebody who is an employee at a company who is an expert start the journey of building content and putting themselves out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the real answer is stop making up excuses and just start. Like I think so many people they try to I think like I said, I think fear is the biggest thing that is holding people back here, but that fear will manifest in different excuses. Sometimes it's I don't have the right gear. Sometimes I don't have time. Sometimes it's I don't know what to make content about. Like there's all of these different manifestations of fear, but I think the real answer is just go ahead and do it and make the reps and be okay with the fact that your first reps are going to be terrible. So I think what I tell people a lot is set a challenge for yourself, make 30 pieces of content in 30 days, post every day, and then at the end, not during, but at the end, look back. What have I achieved? What have I learned, etc. In those 30 days, you'll learn so much. Your content will get better. The way you kind of structure your thoughts will be, you'll be thinking more about content, and you will get to a place, hopefully, where at the end of the 30 days, you're like, oh, I see where we're going. I see a positive feedback loop. I might not be there yet, but I see where we're headed. Yeah.
I was having coffee with a friend of mine last week, and he asked me an interesting question because I think all of us are always talking about like what motivates us, and that's something that's a constant question in our minds. Every day we show up to work, every day we do something new. So I wanted to ask that question to you before we end. In your pursuit, what motivates you? Is it power and influence? Is it impact? Is it money? Or is it freedom?
I don't think it's money or freedom. Like, I think that's often what people talk a lot about in entrepreneurship. But yeah, I don't think that's like, I mean, it's both really nice to have, but they're not really things, in my opinion, to live for or to build for specifically. I think the thing that I like to see the most is people use my stuff. Like, I think there's just something so magical when you see people use your stuff. So yeah, that's something that really drives me. If I see people building projects with Schematic, or when I was at Feed, when I saw people making videos with it, that's just so exciting. And even more so if it's something that they're actually proud of. Like, that's the best thing in the world.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. This has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you doing this.
Cool. Thanks a lot. I had a great time. Thank you.